Good afternoon and hello, everyone. My name is Rich Longo, and I'll be your host for today's presentation. Today's topic is on better IT experiences with Ivanti Neurons. Now, today we have multiple presenters, so let's go through our agenda a little bit. We're going to start out today with listening to some best practices and lessons learned from Jesse Miller of South Star Bank. And he's going to talk a little bit about them when they first got into Avanti Neurons, as well as where that led them and what it has done for their organization. Then we're going to move on to Flycast Partners' very own senior SE, Bobby McCullough, and he's going to talk to us about Avanti Neurons and some of the use cases that are out there. And then we're going to pass it over to our friends at Ivanti. Todd Lubram who is a manager of product management at Ivanti, and he's going to demo the product and share with us some of the product updates and even a little bit of a sneak peek. Now, before I get into the introduction of Flycast Partners, I want to share a poll with everyone out there. I want to launch a poll. I want to know how many of you out there today know what Avanti neurons are or have heard of Avanti neurons. So the poll is out there. Go ahead and answer yes or no as to whether or not you've even heard of Ivanti Neurons. So before we get started with the presentation, let me introduce Flycast Partners. Flycast Partners offers best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, IT security, enterprise service management, and workload automation spaces, all using ITIL best practices. Our professional services team has well over 5,700 professional service engagements, both on site and remote. And as a company, Flycast Partners has nearly 1,300 regular customers that come back over and over again throughout all of Canada and the United States. So I encourage you to reach out to us at 844 Flycast. That's 844 359 2278. Folks, our poll is still open. We've got about another 30 seconds or so. So please send us your answers. I'm curious to know who has heard of Ivanti Neurons. And you can email us at info@flycastpartners.com. But better yet, you can go to our website Monday through Friday during normal business hours from 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time and chat live with one of our IT experts. They are standing by just to chat with you, to help you out with data sheets, white papers, help you out with remote administration services, support, training, whatever that need is. Or if you just want to chat about what's going on in IT today, these guys are happy to chat with you. So please go to our website and pick up the chat bot and get going with our live IT experts. During today's presentation, we will also take questions. If you have questions, type them in the questions section of this GoToWebinar platform, and I'll read them off for our panel. And our panel will try and answer as many of those questions as time allows during today's presentation or before the end of our time allocated for presentation. So without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to play the excerpts of an interview that we did with Jesse Miller after we show our poll results. So let's throw those poll results up there real quick. Let's see here. So it looks like 79% of you have actually heard of Ivanti Neurons. So with that, we'll go right into our interview with Jesse.
It's an exciting product. I actually, I kind of jumped right into it right away. At least when it came out, it was Ivanti Cloud, and we kind of went through some transformation. It kind of shifted, and we kind of jumped onto it. My account rep and Brenda kind of worked together to help me get connected, got me into a live demo. We got our team, we went through it and tested it out. We put it on a good group of machines at our institution, and we thought it was a great fit for us through the connectors and through the other Ivanti products that we had and what we were looking to expand with. And we knew right away that it was the right fit for us, especially through a lot of the automation and what was going to buy us through the security, and through that we knew the longevity and through where Ivanti was going through. you call it neurons, so there's the automation, but there was just simple basic things like cleaning up Active Directory, right? So I could see, and we use CDW too for purchasing, and so they have little ways you can do when you use your connectors. You can say, hey, I want to see and they have these, it's simple, so basic. It's like a little sliding tool. You go in there and they say, hey, if it's in here or not in there or there, and you can just move this around, and then it makes this simple, easy tool that you could say and just do from right off the bat after you put those connectors in. Within 2 hours of being up, I can go in there and I know I can guarantee that to help me go through, and I can clean up something as simple as, or it's as complicated as maybe with AD with a simple connector. And I know that I can start doing some things that are required for things like we need for our audits and which is required, getting AD right off the bat cleaned up. And, when you have we are going through right now this year, we're like a lot of people do equipment changeovers, which is big for us. So if I know I'm decommissioning equipment and I'm putting brand new stuff out there, and just like code for a lot of people, we're ordering 3 times as much stuff that we've ever had before. So helping keep track of that stuff, it made that so simple and attractive to me that like right off the bat, I can see that stuff. Another one was, it's called Edge Intelligence. There's so much stuff that a push of a button, I could see where all of my stuff physically is. So with everybody working from home, if something magically ended up somewhere that I knew it shouldn't be, like, I know a lot of people in Ivanti work in Utah, but if one of my devices ends up in Utah, I'm going to start the question, why is it there? And, that's something that just gives you that peace of mind that helps me sleep better at night.
Right.
And, failed login attempts, all that kind of fun stuff that's on the edge that we tend to really have at like the data center level, that you don't really tend to have at, like I said, the actionable intel on the device level without spending bukus of bucks. I had it at my fingertips, especially when trying to troubleshoot end user issues. I just had it. And there was the additional remote control abilities, that kind of fun stuff. The automation piece, it really brought me into, I was able to use the neurons portion to say, I know what my problem issues are. I think everybody really knows if they really pay attention to basically what your real issues are. I was able to use a lot of just the out of the box, the built-in stuff, and say, hey, I can predict based upon what we have, basically just the basic if this then this, and use the basic remediation stuff that's built in. If this service doesn't start due to, Windows hibernation stuff tends to make stuff go buku, just makes this service restart. So my customers don't have a bad experience, and they end up putting in tickets and then so forth. And then I could put a lot of stuff in the action section. So my entire team that I work with, they can also manually do a lot of stuff, but automate a lot of stuff to just make the devices, I think Ivanti, they call them self-healing. Just put a lot of that basic stuff into practice. Before it would ever even come to me to manually have to deal with that, I was able to get in front of that little by little. I kind of took it like with an experiment of free space on the endpoint. If a machine had a patch that went bukus and would create logs galore, or something, but it was free space, go ahead and run the basic cleanup stuff and clean it up. I think that the big spot is the higher level of automation through neurons and using those, whether it's through better PowerShell scripts, and that's getting better on us. It's kind of like, packing a lunch. If you put a banana in your lunchbox, that's all you're going to get. But if I get better at making that lunch, that's what it's going to turn out better. So I'm really, with the neurons module, you're only really limited by your imagination and your actual ability. So if you really put your time and effort into it, your limitations, you're really limited. So that's what I'm getting at. And so that's really what we want to get to, is breaking down, tracking through ISM where our problems are, pulling that in, and really saying, let's spend a set amount of time per week or however we really want to do it, and say, okay, let's see if we can fix this problem and free up some more time. And let's get better, and let's get to that next level, right? Let's improve customer satisfaction. And to me, it's not even that, but it's also, let's get a better quality of life here, right? Let's make life better for ourselves, for our customers, that's our internal customers, for our external customers. Let's make it better. Everything we can do to make life better. There's the efficiency stuff. Yeah, there's the financial stuff, but where's the quality of life? Let's get the quality of life up. Let's get the stress level down. Let's feel better. Let's get the heart palpitations out of this job industry. And let's make our life as amazing as we can by being able to automate and make the endpoints better. And you know what? If our customers forget that we even exist because they don't need us anymore, man, that's amazing. As long as I still have a job, I'm okay with that. And that's really the goal, right? It's that next level of experience or that we can give, so that we have the best quality of life going forward. And I think that sometimes we kind of forget about that, but that's really the end.
So, folks, those were some high-level excerpts from an interview that we had conducted with South Star Bank. And now South Star Bank, they've had Ivanti Neurons for over a year now. It's been over a year, about a year. And so there have been a lot of changes and updates with Neurons. So we're going to dive into that a little bit today. So I'm going to turn this over to Flycast Partners' very own Bobby McCullough.
Great. Thanks, Rich. Welcome, everybody. But first, before we talk about what's new with Neurons, let's give everybody sort of a 50,000 foot view of what's going on with Neurons. Let's back up and talk a little bit about what's happened in IT for the last year or so. With COVID and how that has changed and put new demands on IT. But what's happened in the last 10 years, 15 years in IT? Everything's just much more complicated. It's much more varied. And so there's an increased demand for technologies that automatically identify and resolve problems before they have a chance to impact your business. And also those that are going to help your technicians visualize and diagnose services that are comprised of complex tech components. They want to do this in seconds and minutes rather than hours. Gartner says that by 2024, which is right around the corner, 30% of business leaders will rely on AI ops for automated insights, as opposed to just 3% today. Rich, can you go to the next slide? So, IT organizations are having to make all this work, and it's really harder than users realize. This puts a lot of expectations, huge burden on IT. They're having to manage a faster pace of change. I'm really not telling you guys anything you don't know. Greater complexity and increased need for security. Just pick up any newspaper or any news website, and there's going to be a story about some type of breach. Rich, can you go to the next slide? So how is your organization doing in each of these three areas? Are you continually improving? And for some, do you even have the metrics to tell you if you're improving in first call resolution, in your service delivery, your customers' overall experience? Rich, can you go to the next slide? Now, resolutions can come at a cost. You can see here from this visualization that as time to resolution increases, generally speaking, so does the cost. You're going to have to involve more people, more specialized people in providing the resolution. So the cost just naturally increases. But what if you could automate that help? What if you could automate that resolution? So not only does that dramatically reduce your mean time to resolution, that's also going to reduce the cost. Now, how can neurons help with that automation? Rich, can you go to the next slide? So think of neurons maybe as your IT co-pilot. It's always on, it's always working, it's constantly, augmenting your IT team with bots that are powered by hyperautomation, artificial intelligence, machine and deep learning to help you proactively detect, diagnose, and resolve issues and autonomously plug security vulnerabilities. So Rich, can you go to the next slide? So let's talk about one example from Ivanti Enterprise Service Management using neurons for healing. So you could enable, in this example, you could enable proactive support and change the relationship with your customers. So it starts off with something that happens all the time. A user's application keeps crashing. It's annoying, but they're able to restart it and keep on with their work. And they don't think it's a big deal. They're not going to contact IT. They don't want to stop what they're doing to take the time to contact IT. So they just live with it. And this is a way that with neurons, what if there's an easy way to find out what's going on with this user's application? What if you're automatically alerted to an application crash? So you could actually proactively reach out to that customer and talk about what's going on, see if maybe you can't help resolve the issue, but they're just kind of putting their head down and just rushing through to get through their day. They've figured out a workaround, so they're just dealing with it. What would that do to the relationship with your employees and your end users? Rich? Shifting left is something that I've been talking about for more than 20 years, is providing that Amazon-like experience. And that was something that Jesse talked about in his section earlier, where he talked about he wanted to get to the point where his customers really didn't even think about him. Think about Amazon. Really, it's just a website except for the delivery people that might show up at your house. It's just a website that gets everything done. You've got your answers. You really never have to talk to anybody. That's that shift left. Self-service portal was supposed to do that, and it does, but it's only up to a point. Having a platform where you can understand when and where issues exist before your customer then provides you the ability to automatically remediate where it's possible. But neurons really can let you go beyond hyperautomation. Rich, can you go to the next slide? So let's talk about another example. Again, it's Ivanti Enterprise Service Manager with neurons for Workspace. This enables your tier 1 team to do more, safely resolve more incidents on the first call without the need to escalate or transfer to specialists. So again, this one, let's talk about something that happens all the time. Call comes in with an issue with maybe a device or an application. And your tier 1 analyst has a knowledge article to help guide them through a few easy things to try. But if it's not easy, then the call gets logged and the caller's told it's going to be escalated to a specialist who's going to follow up for resolution. Now, the analyst asks if there's anything more that they need, and the caller says no. But that they're worrying, wondering, is this resolution going to take too long? You've got work piling up. What's going to happen here? What if through neurons, your tier 1 analyst was able to quickly diagnose what the caller's issue was, execute some specific predefined actions that were really previously only authorized to IT specialists, and they could do this on their own to help resolve the issue, but also proactively check to see if there are any other potential issues with the caller's device or their environment. Is this something that your customers would like? Is this something that your tier 1 analysts would like to be able to deliver? And would your specialists like to deal with fewer escalations and instead focus on more problem-solving strategic tasks? Is that something you'd like to, something that would help your organization? Rich, can you go to the next slide? All of this without impacting your user or business productivity. So again, reducing mean time to resolution is the key to lower costs and also increasing customer satisfaction. Poor response times, a lack of follow-up, long resolution times are just some of the things that your end users hate. So what if you could get rid of over 90% of those bad experiences? Rich? So getting rid of that, would that double your employee satisfaction scores? So Neurons is going to save time, improve the experience with alerts and trend reports to notify operations when activity occurs outside the parameters that you've defined, such as maybe a limited recharge cycle on aging batteries. How could your organization save by refreshing consumables such as batteries before device warranties expire? So with Neurons, it's easy to query all the devices managed by IT, get real-time insight. Interactive reports are going to let your analysts drill deep into the responses to obtain detailed information about an individual device. They can take action proactively. Specialist level guided actions can be executed by you with one click with no user disruption. Or even better, you can have multiple bots detecting and resolving issues automatically before a user or you even know about them. And all that's possible when Ivanti Neurons is your IT co-pilot, helping you deliver fantastic customer service. Students and staff at Kingston University in London were losing productivity when laptop batteries started to age and fail. Using Ivanti Neurons, the team introduced a rule: when the health of an in-warranty machine dips below 40%, an incident is automatically raised in service management, and an email is sent to the hardware vendor to arrange a battery replacement, immediately improving customer experience with automation. There's really no intervention there. It happens, and then you just process the ticket. Customer reports that by monitoring drive space and health proactively, they can reach out to users that will experience issues ahead of time. By ensuring that there is adequate drive space, patch success rates have gone up, and the user experience is enhanced. The proactive drive health neurons really helps them avoid loss of productivity. Rich? So why should you add Neurons to your toolkit? Well, it's obviously it's going to help improve resolution times, help prevent unplanned changes, increase efficiency, provide cost optimization, governance, and security. Rich? But the bottom line is you're going to have a happier customer, better outcomes.
At this point, we'll turn it over to Todd and let Todd go ahead and share his screen and show us a little bit about the nooks and crannies of Neurons.
I saw that most of you are already familiar, or at least have heard of Neurons. I guess one additional question we could have asked is how many of you have actually seen a demo or have maybe played around with Neurons. Either way, I will still do a high-level view of what we can do in Neurons based off of what Jesse Miller was saying and what Bobby has shared with us. And I appreciate you taking the time on that, Bobby, to kind of share some of those use cases. But honestly, there's definitely a lot here for you, and I won't be able to have enough time, or I don't have enough time to give it justice. So really, when we're looking at Neurons, it gives you the high flexibility. And when we talk about edge intelligence, talking about real-time information, right there you saw that I was able to load up my view. I can see everywhere where my devices are accessing, are online and connected to the internet. So this doesn't matter if you're on or off the network, we can still see where those devices are and give you an idea of, hey, these are all the users that are currently online. With that being the case, you can go ahead and always ask additional questions if you ever need any information, whether it's if a certain patch is applied, if you have a security question and something comes up. It feels like that's all too frequent these days. you can quickly ping and type in, you know, hey, I'm looking for a patch, CVE, whatever that might be, and do that full wide query of your environment. Other ones you can see like BitLocker status. If you go through and type it, it'll get all that information. You'll see that I have 309 different devices that are online. So far, 308 have responded. I can see what those results are. I can drill into those, you know, the deeper details if I want, and see which machines are actually there. Are they currently protected or are they unlocked? What does that look like? Again, the list will go on honestly in all these. I'm not going to be able to spend too much time talking through all of them, but big ones are battery health, like what was mentioned. This one is one if you just want to understand where you're currently at in your environment. But honestly, the more preferred approach on that one, as Bobby shared, is being able to automate that. And we've talked about customers using this and leveraging this to honestly improve their end users' experience and satisfaction with what they have. Just because they're having a better battery, a new battery that lasts longer, way before, you know, when you're talking about 2-3 years into their device, right before the expiration of it. So this just gives you an idea of some of the sensors that we have built out of the box, ready to go. You could do, I mean, you know, if for some reason you're wondering about firewalls, you can go quickly say, hey, show me the firewall status. Which ones are actually turned on? What aren't they? Is it domain? Is it private? Is it public? Again, give me that breakdown. We have inventory if you wanted to understand just the overall app install state and saying, okay, what are my 10 most common installed apps? If you want to see which ones those are, go figure. In ours, we have in our environment the Ivanti Neurons Pulse engine, which is essentially Edge Intelligence. And then, but beyond that, we do have Microsoft Analysis Service and SQL Server Management Studio amongst these 300 devices. So that's just showing you like this really, that information was gotten in a matter of milliseconds. And I mean, to get that information and get those responses back. Once we get that information, we do look at providing a holistic view. So one way is through the agent, which is what you're seeing here. We can provide you real-time information. We can provide you inventory of both your hardware and software. But as Jesse alluded to, another key way to get information, provide that single pane of glass, is to do so with our third-party integrations. So I have a myriad of different ways I can connect if you have on-prem sources or if you have certain sources that are in the cloud. And then we have connections and integrations to, you know, AWS if you're running there, or Azure Compute. You can pulling into your compute devices. We talk about security products, making sure that you have an awareness of which endpoints or servers are currently being secured, whether it's, you know, through CrowdStrike, or if you're using detection, you know, vulnerability type products out there like Rapid7 or Tenable. We do have another one coming, which is Qualys. That one's actually going to be released here shortly, and I'll talk through some of the upcoming features that we have for our next release. Or I mean, even if you're using a lot of the Microsoft products, Azure Active Directory, MEM, MECM, if you're using Jamf Pro, VMware vCenter, we've been pulling information from ServiceNow. If you have, you know, looking at their CMDB and making sure you have a holistic view of any devices and assets that are there. Now, as you pull that information in, you're like, well, what do we do with it? We actually store everything separately and can go through and as Jesse mentioned, the biggest value add that we have is this device reconciliation. So the toggles that he was talking about, this is very dynamic depending on what sources you've pulled into your own environment or which sources you have configured. I can go through and toggle each one of these. So I will just kind of start with saying, hey, I'm using Jamf Pro to do my Mac management. But for some reason, you're still wanting to make sure that everything that I have out there is being managed in Jamf Pro. So you would say, hey, here's currently what I have in my Active Directory instance. I have three, if I was to do it just separate, I have 322 devices in this case coming in from my Active Directory. Well, are those devices currently being managed by Jamf Pro? And that's what you're currently saying. You're saying, I'm saying what this toggle is doing is, hey, I've discovered this many devices in AD that are not currently in Jamf Pro. i.e. or example, right, when you're saying this is, I have 322 devices that are not being managed. And that's something you want to uncover and make sure you have that complete coverage. Or as Jesse was saying, you know, you go the flip side, and for some reason I'm having devices in Jamf Pro they're not currently in my Active Directory. And that's what he was mentioning on cleaning up his Active Directory. He was able to go through each one of these different sources and essentially say, well, what should be an Active Directory that isn't, and also vice versa, what's an Active Directory that's not currently being managed by Neurons. Or if you're saying, if you use Ivanti Endpoint Manager, you can do the same thing on that one, and you'll notice that there's definitely a big difference or a big change in this one, because we do have all those endpoints being managed in EPM, well, apart from the 39. So that just gives you an idea of the why behind where we're trying to provide and integrate with all these sources. But not only that, if I was to go into, I can see a list of all the different devices that have been imported into our system, whether it was through the Neurons agent, or whether it was through a third-party connector, or even if it was discovered natively through our Ivanti Neurons for Discovery capabilities. So if I was to type in, here I have a device called Win10-1909. This one I do have the Neurons agent on it. I'm gonna go ahead and pull in my connectors. So let me just kind of turn off some of these so you can see them and give you an idea of the different connectors that are providing information for these devices. So my Win10-1909 is currently an AD. It is currently an Ivanti Endpoint Manager. We also have it joined to Azure AD, and then it is in our Ivanti Service Manager instance. All 4 or 5 of those sources are providing information about this device. Now, when you're talking about an analyst, you want to have all that information at your fingertips. You're not always having to go and plug into a different tool, log into another one, and log into all these different tools just to kind of get information here and there to see what's going on. That's why we've taken on that brunt of the effort, if you will, to bring that all into one single system to where you can, I mean, really, you saw how quick that was to load up all that information. I can get it, but not only that, if you're again leveraging the Ivanti Neurons agent, I'm able to get real-time information about the device. So like in this case, what processes and services are currently running. I can drill down into those processes and services. I can see which ones they are. I can force stop some of them if I need to, if there's some that are stalled or consuming too much memory. I again can kind of stop the different services that may be there. All of this without having to log into the machine. I also have the same type of edge intelligence querying capabilities that I can do for a particular device. I can see, if I want to check to see if an active or specific port is active or not, I could do that. I can get operating system information, again, hardware-based information. What's the current disk space? Is it kind of running low? Is it not? You can see that I still have 28 gigabytes left. We're definitely good here. So all of that without having to, again, we're going to continue to say it, where this is what we're trying to do, without having to log into that machine. So that's really what we're enabling analysts to do, is reduce the amount of time it takes to troubleshoot ticket, devices that come in through whatever your front desk tickets. Users are saying they're having a poor logon experience, so you can do login stats and see what's going on. If it's back to this size, so in this case, I haven't logged in recently, so there's no information available. But I can see that if there's any existing or concurrent sessions going on, things like that. Now, the other part that really where Jesse was talking about that lunchbox, I mean, I could always be having a banana to lunch, but that's not really leveraging everything I can to put, all these different tools or creating a different meal if I want. It's up to me to create, my own or shape my own destiny. And that's what we talk about with these custom actions. So this is really all done and leveraged through Ivanti Neurons, and I'll go there in a second. But honestly, you can create any number of, I mean, the sky is the limit on what you want to achieve. We offer up custom actions through PowerShell, through OS Query, through Bash, whatever those might be, to essentially where you can create any number of custom actions that analysts can use. And essentially, I could kick off this process to say, look, if I needed disk space, I can kick this off. It'll start to look for old files or any other places that you can clean it up and start to quickly remediate that with just a matter of seconds. If you wanted to do throttling, you can look at that, recreating a profile, looking at the network. If you want to create specific files and folders, there's a lot of things that you can do without, again, having to log into that machine. Some of the ones actually that I've gone through and used, I mean, let's use it to real world applicability. the print nightmare that's happening. You know, it's been out for a while for sure, but there was a mad scramble for a lot of companies to go through and essentially kind of disconnect all these printers from their network where devices couldn't use them. Other ways to enable and automate the remediation of that, and looking at, okay, there's now a patch that's out. How can I go and roll that patch out, make sure that these devices have that patch? If not, continue to make sure that they're disabled from those printers. And that's what we kind of look at creating essentially this neuron neuron bot to go through and identify all these things for you. So there's a lot that you'll see that we're leveraging. First, it's just doing a PowerShell query to see if we can find the hot fix. If the hot fix is found, it means, okay, this device is there. Let's make sure that there's certain registry values that it's supposed to have, and continue to move on down whatever that path might be. So you can apply any type of logic that you want, any type of filtering, branching, whatever you need here. In this case, for this particular run, it was saying, hey, I notice I don't have the hot fix, and so it continued down that path to say, okay, well, is my spooler service up and running? It looks like it was. So I'm going to go through and look at the service startup kind of configuration, make sure it's not going to continue to churn on every time the device restarts. And I'm going to go ahead and stop that service, and then still check to see, okay, is that service still running? And therefore go in and say, hey, you need to go in and have this. At this point, you'll need manual intervention. But in this particular case, when it ran, it was able to stop the service and essentially look at it and say, good, we've gone through, we've disabled the print spooler, you're covered on this device for this particular one. And again, I can continue to schedule this particular Neurons bot to run whenever I need, or I can do it on demand. So that's really what Jesse was kind of referring to with really leveraging the full capabilities within Neurons, being able to create any unique types, or being able to create these bots for any unique situation that you may have. I know that's a whirlwind. I know I speak fast. I know there's, as I mentioned, I don't have enough time to give it justice, but there is one last thing I would like to kind of share, and that is the latest information or what we have upcoming. Rich, maybe what we'll do, so we're not continuing to pass sharing screens back and forth, I'll go ahead and show a couple of the items, and then we can just review some of the other ones that we have on the list that are coming in our next release. And when I say next release, I'm talking about October here. So you're talking about the next couple of weeks, guys. The biggest one, so I'm going to switch over to an environment just so you can see what these features look like. We have not fully turned them on in production, so you won't really get any visibility there if you have already access to an Ivanti Neurons environment. But in this case, one of the biggest requested features that we've had to date is more control over what users can see. Right now we have, what we call roles and permissions, that you can create any number of those roles and assign them to your users. But what was still kind of missing there was saying, well, what data can I see? What devices do I get access to? What people can I actually go through and help manage? And so in this case, we've gone through and have been working on what we call scopes. If there are those of you who are very familiar with Ivanti Endpoint Manager, it's kind of similar there. We'll continue to evolve it though and make it applicable for Ivanti Neurons. But when we talk about scopes, I can create any number of these scopes, whether it's what we call the dynamic query or a static list of devices. And then you can see that you can go ahead and assign them to different users. I'm not going to go through and spend too much time in these, but just bear in mind, we have a configurable filter that you can use. You can go ahead and modify it as it's kind of getting that information. There's a lot of data in this instance. But I can create any type of query there, looking at the handful of attributes. You could say, like, my operating system name. Let's see, your operating system is up here. OS name contains Windows. That would be a way to filter it. And I can see that already with Windows, I have around just shy of 4,000 devices. I can go through and say, okay, well, maybe my display name, if you have a certain naming structure, contains SLC. With that being applied to, I now see 117 devices. I can go ahead and save essentially this scope. And now, essentially, any user that has that would say they only have access to Windows machines, or an SLC stands for Salt Lake City. So would only have access to Windows machines in Salt Lake City. So that's a big, huge update for us when it comes to giving more control and more security around what users can see and then also do in Neurons. On the discovery front, and this is more or less where I guess kind of work more and with a group, a team of us, as we continue to focus on our discovery method or efforts and integrations. We have a lot of updates here to where you can go through and do active scanning. So if you want to provide a list of IP addresses or IP address ranges for your CIDR blocks, you can go ahead and do that, and that will essentially configure them to go through and say what type of scanning do you want to do against that block. So whether it's our active, if you want to enable OS detection, if you want to do remote inventory even in that same range, where you don't need the Ivanti Neurons agent, we could do that, SNMP, and you can schedule it. There's definitely more coming on this in our January release, but for our first phase and for this October release, we're now letting, giving customers the ability to specify which IP addresses and again, ranges they want to go through and scan. We've also cleaned up some of the existing discovery settings. So you can go through and say, hey, here's my list of credentials I want to use. We're able to go through and add credentials in line, whereas before it kind of you had to break away and go into another area of the application. We've since simplified that to where you can add them in line for both SNMP or regular device-based credentials. This is where I would turn on and off the different passive discovery methods. So passive is honestly probably the most underutilized discovery capability that we have at Ivanti, but yet the most complete. So this is just where we always you can convert any of your Ivanti Neurons agents into what's called a passive discovery listener. And it's always going to listen for any devices that come in off the network. And you get that traffic and awareness and visibility right as those devices come on the network. You're not having to wait for an active scan to happen where it may miss it based off of the schedule that you've provided. This is always on. This is always going to provide that information, and it kind of uses ARP, as you can see underneath the hood. So we've cleaned up some of the settings in this area. Additional areas, I guess, Rich, maybe we can kind of shift into that PowerPoint, and I'll just quickly talk through some of those other ones. There's 2 additional integrations that we have. We have one, as I mentioned, with Qualys. So you'll see there kind of in that top section. We have one that we've been working on with Google Chrome OS or Google Chrome Enterprise. So if you want to continue to get visibility into your Chrome OS devices, we now will integrate with Google Chrome and pull those in. And then shortly thereafter, we'll be able to expose capabilities to manage those devices directly in Neurons, where you're not having to log into Google Chrome. You're not having to log into all these other tools. Again, the myriad of tools is definitely a pain point for many of our customers, and that's what we're focusing on. How do we kind of bring all that in, enabling some of those key capabilities within a single workflow. The Edge Intelligence, we continue to have updates there and additional sensors, as mentioned. We can go through and we've updated our alerts. So looking at the event log, if there's specific events or errors or items you want to pay attention to, you can create an alert and be notified when it sees those events. Same thing on application crashes, and then also being able to get additional visibility in browser extensions for Edge, Safari, and Firefox. Previously we had it for Chrome. Now we've gone through and added it for the other browsers. The automation or the Neurons healing and bots that we have, there's a lot of updates when it comes to managing files. So being able to go through and create, delete files, whatever that might, move files around, whatever that might be, where it's no code essentially in having to do that. We've had many of our customers go and create custom PowerShell scripts to do it. We've now have out of the box what we call stages to go through and do that. And then lastly, we've been working on some additional machine learning capabilities. The first one is more geared towards our Ivanti Service Manager product. So ticket classification, that's where you can auto classify tickets as as users submit them or as your IT analysts input them into your ISM incident management module. We can go through and automatically classify what that ticket was about based off of information in the name of it or the description. So it's using machine learning to do that. And then eventually we'll actually also leverage that in Ivanti Neurons automation. So you can start to really automate, hey, if a user is saying I can't connect to the VPN, we can identify that it's a VPN issue, and you can have a Neurons bot to go and remediate that. Or back to performance, if we notice that user says my machine is not being performant, it's acting really slow, we can look at that and start to automate. Okay, let's go check the disk size of it. Let's go check a few other areas and start to do that for before an analyst even looks at it, honestly. So there's a lot that's happening in that area with a tight integration between service management and neurons. Hopefully that covered a little bit of everything there, Rich and Bobby and everybody that's listening. Again, I know I speak fast, but honestly, there's so much to cover. And I only say, hey, if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to Flycast. They're great partners. I'm great at what they do.
Thank you very much, Todd. And audience, we did get a lot of information covered today between the interview with Jesse and Bobby doing the overview and everything that Todd just brought to the table. We've got some great comments coming in, Todd and Bobby. One audience member says, thank you. Very informative. Another one says, nice addition as you're going over the added functionality that's coming up in Neurons in the coming months. It was very much appreciated. Obviously, audience, we have run out of time today. So with that being said, we still want your questions. So if you have questions, give us a call at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Or you can email us at info@flycastpartners.com. We'll be happy to also get you a link to this video. If you email us, we'll make sure you get that. And those of you that want to just go on our website and start chatting with our IT experts, they are available Monday through Friday during normal business hours. That's what they're there for. Utilize them. They're happy to answer any questions you have, get you any training, data sheets, white papers, whatever that might look like for you. I want to thank special thank you to Todd for taking time out of his busy schedule. I know that they have a lot going on over there with Neurons and everything going on at Ivanti as Neurons continues to evolve faster and faster, it seems, every day. So thank you, Todd. Bobby, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day because it is the end of the quarter and you end up getting pulled into a lot of things towards the end of the quarter. So your time was very much appreciated. And to our audience, thank you for your time. I know that it's busy in your departments. There's a lot of understaffed organizations out there, and I know that everybody's working very hard. And just keep in mind, some of these tools, like Neurons, a lot of the Ivanti tools can help out with some of your labor shortage problems because it can automate so much of the things that were manual before. So keep that in mind. If you want to free up some time and have a better work life, like Jesse pointed out, maybe you should consider taking a look at some of these products, and we'd be happy to get demos for you on Neurons and ISM or endpoint management, whatever that might be. Until our next broadcast, folks, I want everyone to please stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.